I am here with the legendary Griff Green. Wondering if you could just give a brief background and intro of how we came to be talking today and what we're going to be talking about.
Sure. My brief intro, I've been DAOing my heart out since 2015. My first project was the DAO, and it didn't go well. It went okay considering that we were hacked for $50 million. Hackers came in, but we were able to recover, hard fork the Ethereum network, and actually get all the funds back, and also create Ether Classic. Anyway, it was crazy. Then I started Giveth with a couple other people that helped recover from the DAO hack. And Giveth's kind of spiraled out into many organizations. But the main goal that I've been working on is trying to figure out a way that we can actually change the way that we coordinate around public goods and shared resources, especially around like things that governments and nonprofits do, because they have really bad incentive models. And I think we can actually agree that governments and nonprofits create value. And so we can generate systems that reward that production of value using Web3 toolings, right? Solutions that we normally turn to those organizations for. And so there's Common Stack, there's Token Engineering Commons, there's Bright ID, and there's DAppNode, and there's all these other kind of blockchain for good orgs that I am affiliated with. But it's all the same mission, which is how do we reward the people who are doing good work?
What I'm intrigued by right now is decision-making processes. One aspect of this was the Params parties, but I'm interested in basically all of the thoughts and experiences that you've had about this. So where do you want to start?
I mean, I think the first place to start is the core root of the problem is information asymmetry. And how do you mitigate that? There's a lot of things here that are challenges in the current DAO structures. There's information asymmetry, but there's also the fact that votes are not anonymous. So you can see what those guys vote. You don't even get a chance to have your own opinion. On top of the fear of being ostracized if you have a differing opinion, and if you don't really have a lot of conviction behind that opinion, and it looks like 90+% of the DAO voted one way, are you really going to plant your flag on the other side if it's a slight preference? So being able to see real-time results as well as who is voting, these things are not there in normal voting, yet it's standard in DAO voting, and they're huge issues. You know, I'm pro-voting, but at the same time, I wish there was tools to minimize voting effort. I think we're going to see a lot of interesting innovations in the techniques of voting. I mean, we already have like TEC did quadratic ranked choice voting, you know, to figure out it's for months of educating people through param parties and param debates and these things. And even then it was hard because no one knows what the hell quadratic ranked choice voting is. But these experimentations are starting to come around. And I have a feeling that we'll find more, because the heart of it, voting isn't the most important part. What's important is that the people can participate and signal their opinion. And so then that we as a group can coordinate around strong signals that the group is giving. And that we as a mass of a community can kind of go in a direction that the individuals in the community want. Finding stakeholder representation, and how giving people who are the stakeholders a way to signal their opinion, that's what really matters. The voting and the techniques, and I think we're going to see a Cambrian explosion of these things in all these governance tokens. Which ones work well, especially given the technology that we're using and the remote cultures that we're in. Hopefully, at the core of it, it's how do we get good signals from individuals?
And I think that's really interesting because there are a lot of signaling mechanisms as well. What I thought was really intriguing about the Params parties is that it was essentially taking a very technical signal and trying to make it very accessible. Yeah, I'm wondering if you could talk about that, building the bridge, making it so that anyone can have a view that they can support with the tools that are available.
And I think it depends on context and what you want. If you want a small group of people to decide your economic parameters for your DAO, okay, that's fine. You know, you can have a working group and they can make the decisions and have that information asymmetry. Now, we took a different approach, and it was a lot of work. It's not like the approach that we took is for everyone. We spent months, probably 4 months building the dashboard and doing user testing on the dashboard so that it could be digestible and fun, right? We had to make it fun. And this is the thing. People don't want homework, you know? I know you're a professor and you give homework sometimes. They don't want it, man. They want the information. They want to learn. And a lot of time when it comes to decision making and voting, it's like, do your own research, read this boring voters pamphlet. And so we wanted to make a toy that people could have fun with and create engagement opportunities. And this is where the Param parties came in. So this is the toy that we built. And when it starts, it gives background. It starts here and it's kind of a fun website. And we enter the next phase. We're going in here together. Our economy, our choice. We're doing this. Like how often do you get to actually choose your own economic parameters for anything ever?
It'd be like if we got to vote directly on the interest rate of the.
Yeah, exactly. But instead, the Federal Reserve is some board in the back, a bunch of bankers that just decide when they raise the interest rates. We have no power over it. And we also have all these like little pop-ups with so much information that no one will ever read until they actually come and play with it. When they're like, oh, what is the opening price? And maybe they want to change it to this and that, they can see things and maybe they want to learn more. That's when they read. When they start playing and they're like, what does this even mean? And same with the augmented bonding curve. It's like, okay, here, opening price. They get to choose the price of the token. They get to choose the tributes, like how much, basically the taxes on entering and minting and burning tokens. And then they get to learn about what a bonding curve is so that they can simulate transactions. And we're trying to explain very complicated things. And honestly, it was never going to be something that a normal person could just take and learn. And we knew that. And so at the top, you can see this banner, join our Param parties. Come to a party and we're going to parameterize this thing together. Yeah. And we're going to have people who are experts who would normally be in the back room just making the decisions for everyone. We pull them into a room with everyone to actually start talking about like how they could do these things and let people start to engage and propose a full complex system. And the coolest thing though, they could come in and take someone else's submission and just change one parameter. That's so much more of an engagement opportunity. I think that like this simple parameter, like how much quorum should people be voting in the DAO voting application? It should be higher. I'm going to fork Octopus's proposal and just make it 15% instead. Boom. My DAO proposal. This is my economy. The TEC should use. It's really fun, but it was so much work.
If someone said, I want to do something where I'm going to have a community that I want them to learn about this, but I want to make it so it's actually engaging and they'll actually enjoy it, what would you tell them?
Well, first off, does the community want to learn what you're teaching? So make sure that they want to, and that it means something. For us, of course, it meant something because we were building the token engineering commons that naturally attracted people who are interested in token engineering. So when we're saying, hey, let's design our own token collectively, but we have to educate you on how. So they're like, well, yeah, why do you think I'm here? Making sure that you scope your audience is probably the biggest thing. And then, yeah, engagement. Yeah, I feel like we really underappreciate the apprenticeship kind of approach. Purpose. Homework, one of the worst things about homework is it feels like you're not doing it. If you're collaborating and building towards something that has a real impact, when it's like, no, actually, what you do here will change the outcome of our community. That's like, ooh, either people will disengage because they're like scared of the responsibility, or they'll go in hard. And that's a nice filter too. So at least another technique that I just use in community management in general is having a core group of people in the know that feel like they can be leaders, a group of leaders, as opposed to one leader. One leader can never do it all. So you got to have this group of leaders who can be looked towards for answers, and they feel comfortable giving the answers. So like in the Param parties, there were people who were hosting Param parties maybe, right? But hundreds of people going to the Param parties. So, they're all looking to this person. This person who's hosting the Param party feels like they have authority. So delegating authority to people so they can go on apprentices is really important as well. There were enough people that felt confident enough. And then if it looked like they wanted to, then we take them aside and we give them a deep dive and we help them understand and then let them set off. But it's kind of like in college where you have TA, a teacher's assistant. It's like, yes, there's one person who really understands everything, but then you have these teacher assistants. But what if any student could be a teacher's assistant? And what if there isn't one truth, that there is like a design and there's no professor? There's only teacher's assistants and any student could be a teacher. You still need the teacher's assistant. You still need someone holding down the call and make it fun, but you don't necessarily need a professor telling you what the answers are, saying wrong or right. Because most decisions, there isn't a wrong or right. There's just like, what do we want? How do we understand what the community wants? And let's build a rich signal.
I think it's important to point out, like, at no point in this process was anyone compelled or coerced or bribed to do anything that they didn't want to do.
Yeah, of course.
But that's not true in traditional education. There is a strong shame mechanism. There is the implicit threat of, well, if you don't listen to me, you won't get a good grade. If you don't get a good grade, you won't get a good job. This will go on your permanent record. Like, when I first started learning about Ethereum, I was also first starting to teach calculus. And I thought, I'm going to try to make class, the decision-making process is as decentralized possible, while still recognizing that I have a unique responsibility to the class. I still want it to be a community. It's not just me dominating the conversation, but it's actually a group of people, and my role is to guide them like you're talking about. I have a special role, not my decision, a decision we make collectively. And that's been a huge challenge. It's been very rewarding. I don't see how the future of education can be coercive, especially now that we have the promise of education that isn't coercive. We've seen working models of, that's always people's complaint. Well, if you don't make people go to school, what will they do? Well, they naturally learn. It's a natural human thing to learn. They may not be interested in what you think they should be interested in, but they're going to be interested in something. I just want to thank you and the rest of the TEC community for the work that you did on this. And I think it's really inspiring, both to people in crypto economics and also to educators and community builders, to see what you can do.
Yeah, it is a lot of work, but it pays off. Now we have a community that with 20 to 60 people that submitted proposals that were voted on and understand how the economy works. Now when economic decisions come up, they can have a real opinion and not just delegate to whoever they think knows more than them. So it pays off in the long run. It is an investment for sure.
I think it'd be a good time to give some credit to some people who worked really intensively on building this. Like, I know Sean Anderson was one, and some others. So anybody that we deserve a shout out,
Sem did a lot of Sem and YGG did a lot of the CAD models behind the scenes. Marco did most of the design. Mitch did a lot of the product management, and Lauren did a lot of the copy editing, and also recorded the voiceover for all the Learn modules, so you can even listen to the quick explanations. Each parameter has its own forum post. You can actually go to the forum, and so many people, Nate, Manu, Tam, me, Mitch, several others, took on writing the forum posts for each of the parameters, so that people could just engage on in a place on that parameter. And then of course the developers. I almost forgot the developers. Vitor, Fabio, Pedro, these were the core developers. Nuggin came in strong on the back-end side for the augmented bonding curve. And it was also all built off of another project that we have that's more of a fun thing. It's called sim.commonsstack.org. This is the Commons Simulator. And so this was full-on game that was just a fictional future where the world has been destroyed because no one cared about public goods. I don't know if you ever saw Quantum Leap, but it's kind of of that model where you're a person from the future going back in time, but downloaded into someone else's body. And then you get to build a regenerative economy around a system to save the world, And the idea is that we'll have multiple levels to this, but it kind of walks you through. This was a game that we did around building commons, and we used a lot of this work to build the dashboard. I bet everyone is ready for sim.commonsstack.org, which is just a really fun game.
Well, Griff, it's been great talking to you. Is there anything else you want people to know, or anything I forgot to ask?
I guess I should say follow on Twitter, TE Commons. If you like token engineering, TECMNS. At TE Commons on Twitter. You like the idea of actually building a third way besides nonprofits and governments to provide public goods to society, at Commons Stack, two S's there, on Twitter. And if you want to help build the future of giving, especially for nonprofits, then you probably want to check out Giveth at Giveth.io on Twitter, or Giveth.io. Honestly, if you donate in crypto, it's the best donation platform in the world. 100% of the donations go to the nonprofits, and we pay you to donate. You actually could make money by donating, which is crazy. If any of that isn't interesting to you, you can probably also Google Griff Green and find all these links and all these things.
Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you around.
Thanks a lot, Octopus.